Well, you wanted more? Let's do more. Stefan with a new thread titled, "It's sad to see the negativity surrounding a game over a month away. I love Dragon Age. Baldur's Gate 3 finally woke people up on the potential of a great RPG with a narrative that's both intriguing and relevant to today. Diverse characters and tons of customization, both character creation and role-playing, dialogue options, relationships between characters, etc. It seems to me it's a really vocal minority of hateful nerds complaining about the game on Twitter, Threads, and YouTube. What exactly spurred this on? I've heard that it's the option to give your characters top surgery scars, but is that really a big enough of a deal to just hate on the entire game? It's not really a matter of fantasy realism, since you could always give your character cosmetic scars. If this makes us feel more comfortable playing the game, why do others feel the need to make us feel bad about it? 3 raccoons, 1 coat. Nice name. First reply writes, "These forums are a dark place, friend. But keep thinking happy thoughts and just play the game you want to play. Nobody can take that away from you or any of us." And even here, there are a few islands of positivity. Captain Spaulding writes, "You keep telling yourselves that this is a vocal minority, yet the trailer for this turd sits on YouTube at 46K to 282 like to dislike ratio. Maybe even the first reveal of gameplay trailer has significantly more dislikes to likes. By comparison, BG3's trailer stands at 63K to 1K dislikes. So yeah, you may feel like it's just a vocal minority, but me thinks you're part of the minority and this game won't float, as we'll soon see. Putting your fingers in your ears to block out the noise won't make it go away, ... 3 raccoons, 1 coat replies to that and says, "I mean, it depends what you count as a minority. The game will sell several million copies whether it succeeds or flops. So by comparison, 300K YouTube dislikes on a trailer that even most of the people who are buying the game dislike will be a tiny minority. On the other hand, 8 billion people won't buy the game, so by that count, us fans will definitely be a minority." Also, your example of the BG3 trailer proves how meaningless trailers are. A trailer for a game broke all CRPG sales records, only got 67K likes. Razzie Days, familiar name, writes, "Baldur's Gate 3, a game BioWare should have made, done by a different studio, which reflects negatively on BioWare. Vocal minority equals the modern audience, terminally online activists who don't care about the game or issues and are addicted to engagement drama. Will spend more time crying about things on X/Reddit than playing the game. Vocal majority equals average consumer who just wants good games, people who will spend the most time playing the game. Hateful nerds equals constructive criticism, people trying to discuss red flags, anti-manipulation narrative drivers. Fantasy realism equals political activism sim where you can escape your fantasy online world into a reality. The inverse of what normal people do. Fixed." Frisch writes, "The real vocal minority would support top surgery scars." Ariar, who pre-ordered the game, writes, "The silent majority supports top surgery scars because they know it is a minor, completely non-mandatory option that doesn't concern them at all and makes some people happier." Asurian Fried Malekith with a new thread titled, "State of Play showcase of this game convinced me not to buy." Seriously, is this what you're trying to sell the game on? Looks awful, sounds awful, plays awful. Utterly nothing about this game looks redeeming. Think I'll just start another Origins playthrough on this turd's release. Umi writes, "Inclusivity/wokeness is usually a desperation move these days. There's almost zero engagement with this game. We're talking Concord/sewer slide squad level of catastrophe." Well, there seems to be a lot of engagement on YouTube videos. Drake Ravenwolf writes, "The dragons look so bad, man. ... Jimmy Kaz, who was clowned for this post, writes, "BioWare never was an action game studio, even before all the OG white/male BioWare staffs left. I am not surprised the new diverse dev with their Pepe chopped off can do any better." Valkyria, familiar name, writes, "Okay, have fun in 2009. The rest of us fans will be busy experiencing Chapter 4 of Dragon Age." Oh man, if only.
Were it so easy,
Dark Glam with a new thread titled, "Where are hand amputated and wheelchair representation? Even Game of Thrones had it. This game is all about sex only? Even Game of Thrones had a real dwarf, a hero with just a hand, and a wheelchair powerful clairvoyant. This game is falsely inclusive. A lot of people is excluded, including deafs, plus size body types, and many more human variety." Baphomet writes, "These woke losers don't really care about representation. They just want a virtue signal and get special privilege at the expense of the rest. Under the smallest logical scrutiny, their whole argument falls apart." Cypher writes, "I'm a helicopter. Where's the representation in game?" Slender Man writes, "I am handsome, masculine, big Giga Chad. Where is my representation in game? I am only seeing feminine losers. The whole game smells of pussification, weakness, softness." Omen 3608 writes, "Being dismissive of sexuality being present in the game and then coming up with Game of Thrones comparison is a very strange take. I can't recall Dragon Age ever having the amount of orgies, sex scenes, or using sex to humiliate another person as Game of Thrones had. I also can't recall a character having a relationship with his own sister, like Jaime Lannister, you know, the dude who lost his hand, had. I will only mention your very appreciated intake on the powerful wheelchaired clairvoyant on a side note. Not that you get anxious I missed him. I'm sure if you think about it hard enough, you might understand why a paralyzed main character is not a very good choice in a Dragon Age scenario." Well, I also thought about how somebody being wheelchair bound probably isn't the best choice for a member of the SWAT team, but Rainbow Six did it, so why can't Dragon Age? Come on, Omen 3608. It's 2024. Get with the times, bigot. Romo replies to Slenderman and says, "Flagged as misinformation in the first line. Please contribute without lying. Thank you." Dreaming Cactus writes, "They also forgot to include people with an IQ above 70. Cutlass Jack is not amused. He says, "This joke is so last week. Come up with new material." Citizen Wea with a new thread titled, "Mass Effect 5 is doomed. With how this franchise is being treated, I have zero faith for Mass Effect 5 or any game BioWare is releasing ever again." Born to Frag Alpha writes, "I hope it fails, and someone competent takes over and continues Mass Effect and gives us Shepard back. They've already ruined Dragon Age and almost ruined Mass Effect with Andromeda, but we can pretend it never happened." Romo writes, "I hope it does amazing and ME5 includes all the same things that made people mad while also being a great game." Good luck meeting both of those criteria simultaneously. I think the point is the things that made people mad were the things that made it not a great game. 3 Raccoons, 1 Coat writes, "I hope the plot is Sarah Ryder having to save both galaxies from a Reaper made from the corpse of the male version of Shepard. Would be my favorite game ever. And I would think of all the anti-woke sadness while I played it." Private Profile writes, "Hopefully after this fails, Ubisoft, BioWare close, and all the other woke disasters that we have seen recently, companies stop with all the DEI hires and just hire qualified dev teams that want to make games and not push their radical agenda and make their fantasy gay Rule 34s like we are seeing here." Makeshift Riot writes, "I'm sure there are other developers perfectly capable of doing it justice. At this point, do you really trust BioWare to do so?" I have complete trust in BioWare, Makeshift Riot. Remember, they made Anthem, and that's the Bob Dylan of gaming, so show some respect. Cypher writes, "The only good thing about VEILGUARD is that thanks to it, we won't have to watch a Mass Effect made by this dev team." Valkyria. This guy is everywhere. He writes, "I remember back when people was ranting about how Borderlands 3 was going to fail, how Gearbox was going to shut down and go broke. Game was successful and fun. Then they pumped out Tiny Tina's Wonderlands not long after and it did the same. The anti-woke people always claim the end is coming, and sure enough, it never does. You can only cry wolf so many times before people stop believing you. That's just a fact." Oh, well, that's not good. Isn't this supposed to be green? This must be a mistake. It's a misunderstanding, guys. Born to Frag Alpha starts a new thread titled, "LGHD LGHDTV Q+ tag, actual problem. And no, the inclusion of the tag ain't it. On Steam page, Dragon Age VEILGUARD has the following tags in order: single player, LGHDTV+, action RPG, and fantasy. Wait, does it really? Oh no, there it is. Well, I guess everybody take your bets now. Is this tag gonna survive launch week or not? Yes or no? Step right up. This video-game has the tag LGHDTV+ before action RPG or even fantasy. What does it tell us? That's a priority over all rest, the second most important aspect of the game after it being single player. You would not advertise it such, nor put it there unless that is where your focus is. Last I checked, this is not a dating sim video game, and yet your attention lies on the sexuality of the characters? It is more important than the genre fantasy, and is more important than the game action RPG. Is this a dating sim? Who the hell is this game made for? I do not understand. Noctoculus with a new thread titled VEILGUARD caught faking pre-order numbers. And then he links a YouTube video about EA lying about it or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. If I've learned anything from these forums is that all YouTubers are liars. He writes, they were even here spamming the same story. Numbers are good. Everyone is pleased. Anyone calling out the BS can freely feel vindicated now. Umi writes, the LGHDTV+ tag on the store page convinced me this game will entirely bomb. Virtue signaling for inclusivity is pretty much a desperation move for the corpse these days. Top surgery scars aside, there's almost zero interest in this game. Might be the final nail in the coffin for BioWare. Well, in defense, I think this is user defined, so I don't think that BioWare and EA have a lot of control over this, which in my opinion makes it funnier that a whole bunch of people just brigaded it with this. That is very funny. I have a feeling that won't be there a week after launch. I just call it a hunch. Cutlass Jack writes, well, someone on YouTube fishing for views posted something. That really showed EA. Noctoculus replies to Cutlass Jack and says, now that this story has surfaced, it certainly seems like many of these bad faith actors have disappeared. Cypher writes, that's more trustworthy than some EA suit said behind doors that the game is selling well. Cutlass Jack writes, which do I believe more, ... someone who can actually see the numbers, or trust me bro, please subscribe to my channel. Is somebody gonna say the line? Is somebody gonna say it? Don't make me say it. Psychopath Banana writes, I feel bad for BioWare. They used to make cool games, frowny face. And he pre-ordered the game. Cypher asked him, why did you buy this, heart? And it doesn't look like he ever replied. Jer Beware writes, or just don't believe either. As noted, I did glance at the link and skim through a bit in the background while working. I didn't hear anything that was conclusive proof unless I missed it. If I had to pick one at this point, I'd agree that the EA exec probably has better information / is more credible, even if I'm not happy with the choice. If you're ever having to go to bat for an Electronic Arts executive, I don't know, what's there to say? Like, you've pretty much already lost. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills reading that. Cutlass Jack writes, yup, just this. Some possibility of credible information versus no possibility of credible information. Trying to make a scandal out of it just feels embarrassing. Someone must be seriously worried the game might succeed. That's why everybody was posting in the Concord forums. We were all so terrified it might succeed, guys. Cypher writes, this game won't. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. Romo, who is clowned, writes, feel genuinely sad for people that open their YouTube feed after a long day and consume this type of content. Literally pushing towards an early grave. Literally. Well, if you're listening to this, at least you have Romo's sympathy. Romo, double posting, gets 2 more clowns, writes, never ever get any analytics related job, please. Baphomet writes, the sad thing is seeing people defending evil corporations like EA. Romo replies to that and says, nobody defends corporations, we just play games and look forward to stuff we like. What's sadder is people who think everything is a war or an agenda. LaMail! Consume product and then get excited for next product.
Don't ask questions.
Left Paw writes, more proof that these companies are totally out of touch with the player base. If they were more in touch, they would know that pre-orders have gone down across the board due to lack of trust and means nothing when it comes to a game's success. Pre-ordering has become unfashionable. 3 Raccoons 1 Coat writes, "You are right. Corporations always lie. Not like randos on YouTube who are famously 100% knowledgeable and 100% truthful." You know, Raccoons, he has a point. We are that. I'm glad somebody finally recognized it. Ethram writes, "Well, there are people looking forward to dumpster fire and having laugh. Have some empathy for them. They just want to have fun. Same as you." Romo replies to that and says, "Quite sad if your fun consists of going on forums of games you dislike, isn't it? Just a personal opinion, but I'd much rather spend that time doing something I like. But maybe that's because joblessness leaves you with a lot of time." This is like the 20th post I've seen from him. Like, you're allowed to say this, but if you have as many posts as this guy does, this kind of lands a little flat. I'm just saying. Somebody on these forums has a lot of time. Zaffron Chi writes, "As someone who is planning to buy this game, I'll eat my hat if EA and BioWare will get to call this game a success. This whole thing has underperformed written all over it. At this point, they need to just be aiming for covering the cost of development with a nice little bonus on top for Andrew Wilson because he works so hard. This game is out in a month and it hasn't even reached top 50 sellers on Steam yet. A few days ago, it was 80 something on the top sellers list, and today it was 130 something on the list." Ethram replies to Romo and says, "Ad hominem already, huh? Who are you to say something is sad? Also, calling someone jobless because they speak in forums is wild. I assume you're jobless too?" Romo fires back, "No, I'm dropping a deuce in the office toilet while seeing this." Damn. JRK writes, "Wow, sounds like ass Mongold told you what to believe." Chromanos fires back, "Wow, sounds like Wokies told you what to believe." Bowman, who owns the game, was banned and got a clown, writes, at OP, who wrote, "Veilguard caught faking pre-order numbers. You are accusing a company of investor fraud with literally no evidence. Most likely no one will notice, but I actually hope they do so that you can learn about libel and the legal consequences for the same. Steam happy." Libel? Ethram replies to that and says, "I accuse you of being mean on public forum, acting hateful to people and disrespecting them. Let's hope the authority figures will take notice." Shadow with a new thread titled, "Many you got early access to play and preview the game before release say it is very good." And then a wall of text that just says the same thing that the title does, only in a lot more words. First reply, Fenriff, who was banned, writes, "Why did they get early access again? Why were these specific creators chosen to give their thoughts on the game? What was the criteria? Why do you care if the game sells well? Do you have EA stocks or something?" That's a good point. Was I chosen? Oh, my key must have been lost in the mail or something. That's probably what happened. Dang it. We'll get them next time, EA bros. El Maestro writes a new thread titled, "When did LGHD TV Plus become a heart game tags? No politics in game. I want my hetero tags too." Romo, familiar name, confirmed employed, writes, "Nope, sorry." Alvin the Elf writes, "There is a hetero tag. If it doesn't have the LGHD TV Plus tag, it's a hetero tag. You're welcome." Admiral 1018 writes, "It's fitting. The lead developer describes themselves as a gendermancer and said the world of DA in this game is inherently queer. All of the NPCs are pansexual, so that's about as LGHD TV forward as a game can be." BMX Bandit writes, "We should replace that tag with DEI tag." KOC, who pre-ordered Dragon Age, writes, "No politics in game? In Dragon Age? The setting that is all about politics? Are you all right?" Umi replies to Admiral 1018 18 says, that's bananas. The game will crash and burn so hard. They don't have enough LG HD TV fans to break even on the money spent on this project. This is why it's not very wise to pander to the 0.01% of the population while spending hundreds of millions. Disney knows, Ubisoft knows. Ah, come on, Umi, you gotta bring up Concord. It's right there, $400 million. Come on. You know, if Umi's gonna write all this and not bring up Concord, I don't feel so good, Concord bros. I don't think it's gonna happen today. I guess the new current thing is Ubisoft getting trashed. I kind of already did that, but the stock price is below $2.50, and the board of directors announced an investigation into operations and management, writes Dolenny67. So maybe Concord might be off the hook if Ubisoft continues to plummet like they are? I don't know. Gloomseeker writes, those guys know nothing about Dragon Age. Zevran would have blown their mind away and probably turned them all gay in the process. Heart. After all, Fox News predicted it back in the day. Heretic Rivga writes, has it ever occurred to you that they are not pandering and actually have a moral conviction that supporting a bullied community is the right thing to do? Add to this, they know full well that this will lose them sales, and yet they are still going ahead with it. Oh boy, don't let the investors see that. Admiral 1018 writes, I agree. It's not pandering, it's narcissism. The lead developer literally said she's making a game that she would have enjoyed as a kid who was struggling with gender identity issues. That's great, but this is not your franchise or personal vanity project for that type of thing. Go work on something like Life is Strange if you want to explore your LG HD TV issues and not use an existing IP as the platform. If people weren't terrified of criticizing anything related to LG HD TV causes, this would be intolerable. Moonwitch writes, don't like it, don't buy it. Simple as. You know, this would have been funnier if Moonwitch had actually bought the game. That would have been a great punchline to this to this message. Hey, Drake Ravenwolf, he did it. Look at that. Say the line, Bart. Ooh, I thought it was just me. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was the boomer clinging onto the past, but Drake Ravenwolf, he saved me. Suda Tumiko writes, woke trash. Lazy Joe Beard writes, I noticed it first on Concord, the $400 million flop that lasted 2 weeks. I would also like to point out that they removed that tag once they seen how terrible the sales were. They blacklisted a few tags, and you can see what ones they themselves blacklisted, and that tag was one of them. Okay, so if we go back, where, here we are. That's not surviving launch week. No way. Take your bets. Launch plus 1 week, is this tag gonna be here? I say no, not a chance. So our Boney posts this long thing that I'm not gonna read out loud. I'll give you the TLDR, is the tags are user generated, but the publisher, the developer, whoever manages the storefront on Steam can list tags that are relevant, and they have some influence over the top 5, but users, as more people add tags, the users have a little bit more influence over what the tag says. So you can read this if you want. This last sentence, I'm not sure if this is true. He says the developer has full control in the top 5. So that would mean that these 5 right here, the developer or the manager of the storefront chooses what goes on here. And also they can blacklist tags. So if there's a tag that is inaccurate, the storefront manager can blacklist them, like Concord did with the LG HD TV tag. So the question becomes, is this tag gonna survive launch week? So take your bets. In my opinion, absolutely not. Our Boney seems very confident, so I'll read this. He says, you are not understanding. The user tags you mentioned are actually a mix of the developers and users. Well, the developer can override them in order of relevance. I copy paste the Steam documentation about, okay, that was before. What I'm telling you is that if LG HD TV is in the top 5, it's BioWare's, not the users. So there you go. So this is BioWare's doing right here. Oh no. J Closed writes, sigh. When Dragon Age Origins was released, there were player inside the game, including the player if he, she wanted, that were straight, gay, lesbian, or bisexual. Nobody blinked an eye and nobody made a fuss about it. Nobody even cared much about it. The game was considered a great game and that's what mattered. The expansion DLCs were great too. My God. Yeah. We said set the precedent, it's normalized. Now this new game follows exactly the same tradition, and suddenly every idiot gets his panties in a twist and is running around like a headless chicken, shouting, "Wokey, wokey, wokey, wokey. What's wrong with these idiots?" Gloom Seeker replies to that and says it's proof they're just venting their bigotry. Those who cry about Dragon Age catering to the LGHD TV crowd are not fans. They're just here to whine and pretend they are being oppressed so that they can cry some more. It's absolute nonsense. Mudcrab writes, if tears are for fears, then tags are for Astro Babe, who owns Dragon Age, writes, I too think straight people deserve straight Pride Month. Maybe make it the entire year since there's so many of them. Did you know straight people are heterosexual? 10 out of 10 fascists recommend being born that way if you don't want people to yuck your yum about a video game. What? This is a new one. I haven't heard this one before. Bowman with a new thread titled, Don't hate an honest single-player game you haven't tried yet. Look, this game is being made by people who are against microtransactions. I know that because I personally know one of the people making it. We all know the first trailer, which wasn't made by the devs, BTW, made it look like some kind of cringe hero shooter, but that isn't the actual game. It's a dark fantasy action RPG. If the game comes out and you don't like it, feel free to say so, but please don't preemptively hate a good faith attempt to save BioWare by making real games again. Best. Sorry, Foeman, but I got no good faith after Anthem. It's gonna take a long time, probably forever, for me to have any faith in that studio ever again, because BioWare that made Mass Effect 1 and 2 no longer exists. Man, I'm not gonna read this, but there are like 4 or 5 people that are just in here 24/7. It's just the same people posting in these forums all day, every day.
All day, every day.
Like, are these developers? Are these contractors who are not renewed and they want to make their bonus or something? Like, why are they in here? Like, just say your piece and then move on. I don't understand why it's the same people posting, saying the same things, circle jerking the same things all day, every day.
All day, every day.
For like the last 2 weeks. I just don't get it, but oh well. You could say I'm doing the same thing, but at least I'm getting paid a little bit. These guys aren't getting paid at all. Whatever. Yibwani with a new thread titled BioWare or Ubisoft? Who dies first? All right, I'm getting tired of this. We'll give Left Pause thread the last word. It's titled, Give me one reason not to buy. Don't mention the options of CC, they are options. Don't mention the graphics, some like them, some don't, it's a personal thing. Don't mention the combat, it looks fast and fluid, just how I like it. Don't mention the story and dialogue, we haven't played it yet and we don't know, and those few that have say it's good. Don't mention the price is reasonable for a AAA title. Okay, go on. Give me one good reason not to buy that isn't any of these things. Connor Davis J writes, Modern BioWare. Pontiac Tamer says, just add rhetorical to your title next time. Prince Xavier. We'll give Prince Xavier the last word. He writes, Rainbow Age, the gay guard. All right, that's gonna do it. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys got a nice cheap laugh out of this. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.